and gentlemen, kicking off the first stop on his world tour, our new president and prophet, Russell M. Nelson. You say you want some revelation, well, here you go. It's gonna blow your freaking mind.
Greetings, brothers and sisters. Welcome to the weekly Mormon News Roundup, where Adah, Dives, and Al ruminate on the great and spacious beehive. This week is January 8th, 2023, New Year, new episode, number 41 coming at you. We have Adah, a special guest from Dissident Daughters. She's co-hosting with us this week. In the news, we've got an official BYU New Year's resolution slate. We'll look into those. Dieter Uchdorf has channeled a Chinese fortune cookie message as revelation. Also, Russell Nelson has been deep sea fishing and given us some New Year's inspiration from that in the news. Also, why LDS Church growth has flamed out and how to relight the fuse. Some really big things in the news this week, so we're glad that you've come to join us. Dives and Adah, welcome, and how are you?
Hey, we're doing great. Hey, Adah, welcome to the Mormon News Roundup.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
Hey, it's a tremendous. Now, you have your own podcast, right? That's what's the name of that?
Yeah, so my podcast is Dissident Daughters.
And when did you start that?
So I just started in February of 2022, so it hasn't been quite a year yet. I actually wanted to do a podcast for a while, but when Bill Reel asked for, he wanted to have some more women do podcasts, wanted to hear women's voices, and I kind of took that as my opportunity. And so I reached out to him and said, hey, I kind of want to give this a shot. So when I decided to do it, just even coming up with the name was a little bit interesting, but I love the word dissident because it's a person who, actively challenges an established political or religious system, doctrine, belief, policy, or institution. And I just thought that perfectly describes me and what I've been up to lately. So I also wanted to just give women more chances to tell their stories. So that's basically what my podcast is. There is a lot of men in this space, in particular, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. But, in the LDS sphere that, women are always kind of sidelined a little bit. And
we're definitely overrepresented here.
So that's kind of my purpose in my podcast. The only man I've ever had on the podcast is my son. I interviewed him, but other than that, it's been all women. So.
Mm-hmm. And what's kind of the whole purpose behind your what's your mission of your podcast, the Dissident Daughters?
Dissident Daughters, yeah. So it's mainly just to give women a space to be able to talk and tell their stories and even vent about the issues in the church. Mm-hmm. We do talk about things in the news sometimes, things that are going on in the Mormon world. So I love your podcast because it does that on a regular basis. I've covered a few of the, stories that have come out over the year that have been, really big stories. But so there's that. And just, it's kind of my own deconstruction. And, I've looked back on this past year and been like, wow, there's a lot of, there's some pretty lame episodes. And then there's some where I'm, I'm in a really bad headspace and you can tell, but I've left it all out there because that's just been part of my journey. Sometimes it's pretty and sometimes it's really messy. So that's been just kind of I think when I first started, my faith crisis was about 4 years ago. And when I first started, I wanted to hear other people talking about it and how they were getting through it and what their experiences were. And it was just really validating. So I think that's a big reason why I'm out there talking about it.
Cool.
Yeah, I really like the name of your podcast. That kind of got me listening to it. I've actually been listening to it basically from the beginning, and I've listened to most of your episodes. And at the beginning, you used to have a co-host, and I'm so sorry, but I forgot her name. What happened to your co-host, though?
Yeah, so my co-host went by Esther, and she's actually She's my sister-in-law, and we are the best of friends. And we kind of went through our faith crises together. And so we were just, side by side in the whole process. Now, when it came to the podcast, she really didn't have any interest in doing the podcast. And so I had to beg and plead. And finally, she agreed to do 10 episodes. And I thought, well, that's good enough. I can probably convince her to do more after we do the first 10. But after the 10, she was like, nope, I'm done. I just need to leave Mormonism in my past. I don't, it brings her a lot of anxiety. And she just really wanted to just turn over that, page and be done with it. So I was really sad to lose her, but I also understand she's just in a different place. Yeah. So, but she was so great on the podcast. We had a really good chemistry and just, feeding off of each other. We've been best friends for 20 years, so she's just really great, but we're still really close. She just doesn't want to be in the podcast world.
Oh, super cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, it sounds like you've had a pretty good run of success there. And I think with the attitude and the approach that you're taking, you're going to fit in just perfect here on the Mormon News Roundup. So we're glad to have you.
Oh, good. I'm so glad to be here. This is fun.
Yeah. Is there anything else that you'd like to share with us about your personal life, your religious beliefs, or anything you'd like us to know?
Not really anything major, just that life is so much better outside of Mormonism. And it's been interesting, going through the holidays, and this year really was the first year that I really felt, completely free and untriggered by any of the Jesus stuff, and because when I lost my faith, I lost everything. Like, this God, it's all gone. So, and then just like starting a new year, I just feel really good and optimistic, I guess, about the future, and just life is fantastic. So I have nothing to complain about.
It sounds like you're looking forward to a great New Year's. And you know what? We found, Alan and myself, we found the official BYU New Year's resolutions that were leaked. We've got a lot of spies and moles out there at BYU, don't we, Al?
We've got a few. We still have some connections there.
Almost as many as Greg with Quick Media, but maybe not that many. But we got the official BYU New Year's resolutions that were leaked. And Adah, we pass those on to you. Let's go over those New Year's resolutions.
Yeah, absolutely. So the first one on this list is to get Ken Niumatalolo. Is that how you pronounce his name?
Yeah, pretty close. Niumatalolo.
Oh, I wasn't even close.
It's Polynesian.
Yes, those are two. But that's the first one, is to get him a cushy job in the athletic department at BYU, preferably something that pays at least as much as a general authority.
Whoa. Hey, wait a minute. Who is Ken Niumatalolo, Al?
Okay. Ken Niumatalolo.
Okay, thank you.
He was the head coach for Navy's football team. And recently, he had announced his retirement. Didn't get a chance to retire. In fact, they fired him before he could retire. So he's on the market.
Yeah. Hey, Adah, do you remember the Meet the Mormons movie back in 2014?
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah. He was the coach in there, and now that he needs a job, a cushy job in the athletic department, probably something that pays as much as general authority, which we know from the Widow's Mite report is about $259,000 a year. So that's the resolution one. Seems like a good idea. What about some more?
So the next one is to stop sending the alumni magazines to Charlie Bird and Jillian Orr.
There's no reason. Happen. There's no reason to waste postage. You know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah, absolutely. What about number 14?
Well, the next one is to make Brad Wilcox disappear, just like they did Randy Bott.
It could be just about time for that now that I'm thinking about it.
He might be due for retirement too, or early retirement.
Early retirement.
Yeah, he might make a good mission president somewhere way off, way out in the middle of nowhere. It may be time for him to disappear.
Siberia, maybe?
Siberia was exactly what I was thinking.
Yeah, maybe the South Pole, somewhere along those lines, that where he can do a lot less damage. What about number 13?
Well, this one, block the Black Menaces TikTok channel on all campus computers, and see if the BYU General Counsel can send a cease and desist order. I mean, I'm kind of surprised they haven't already done this, actually.
I'd be shocked if they hadn't.
I don't know. I wonder if they have blocked him or not. It seems like it could be about time for that. Or what about number 12?
This one, I'm a little upset about. They're going to replace David Archuleta with Ammon Bundy as the next Freedom Festival Master of Ceremony. And I understand they have to do it because, David Archuleta, he's no longer their golden boy, right?
No. That's right. But Ammon Bundy, he
certainly stands for it, doesn't he?
Yeah, he's a rising star as far as I know.
Yeah, he's an interesting dude.
Perhaps Governor Bundy? Oh, wait.
Yeah, well,
Did he lose the election?
Oh, he lost.
Yeah, he did.
yeah, well, I don't think his membership has been called into question, and the same thing cannot be said for David Archuleta. So, but I can guarantee you this: if he is the master of ceremony at the Freedom Festival, that is one that I'm going to tune into. I guarantee you that.
Right? There's bound to be something interesting.
Yeah. What about number 11?
Next one, at the university commencement in April, they're going to train bloodhounds to screen all student graduation gowns for satanically inspired rainbow flags.
Wait, can bloodhounds smell rainbow flags, Al?
Do colors have a scent?
I'm not sure.
I'll have to ask some people that I think blind people have a really good sense of smell. So I'll ask some blind people if colors have a scent.
Yeah, but it's time to crack. It's time to crack down on those satanically inspired rainbow pride flags. I think
Keep
BYU
popping up.
Yeah, keep it on the up and up. What about number 10?
So that's double the musket ammunition stockpile. Hashtag Elder Holland loves you.
Yeah, where do you think they keep that ammunition? So I've heard a lot about it. I have never seen it. Where do you think they keep it on campus?
There's got to be a vault somewhere, right? Oh,
vault lined with lead.
MTC basement.
Yeah. Maybe, yeah, like you said, maybe it's in the MTC basement. I know a lot of bad things happen in that MTC basement. Maybe that's where they also keep the ammunition stockpile for those muskets. I'm not real sure.
Yeah.
If our listeners know, then send us a note. What about number 9?
In an obscure essay buried deep within churchofjesuschrist.org, they're going to disavow but not apologize for gay electroshock conversion therapy. And it's only 50 years too late.
Yeah, what you disavow it, but don't apologize. I think that's a pattern from the church that I've seen.
Right.
Things happened. Feelings were hurt. It wasn't our fault.
Yeah, exactly. And you don't want to put that on the front page of the Deseret News. That's for sure.
Right.
Yeah. So bury it deep, at least 3, 4, maybe even 7 clicks deep. That's what I understand is where the most important things are on churchofjesuschrist.org.
Right.
Seems like
or it's in a magazine from 1970 that you can't get on the internet.
Yeah, put it in the improvement era in a back issue of the improvement era. Yeah, I gotcha. Or what about number 8?
Keep birth control far away from students, faculty, and staff who really need it.
Now, we covered this before. That I don't know if this is still going on, but it was earlier in the year where DMBA is not covering birth control, especially for women who need it. And, it looks like the official BYU New Year's resolutions, they're going to keep that up.
Well, yeah, I mean, they can't stop people from having babies. They need lots more babies to be born.
Yeah. How else are they going to keep the stone rolling forward?
Right. If you look at Saturday's Warrior, 0 population, that is Satan's plan.
I watched that last week, and it is still so good.
Absolutely.
Who can be strong? Who can be strong?
Right?
Yeah, not one of
every song. It's so good.
Not one of us will be alive, but that won't be a problem as long as we keep the birth control away from everybody. Or what about number 7?
Ensure that undergraduate speech pathology majors do not have jobs after graduation, especially girls, because they shouldn't be working anyways.
Whoa, wait a minute. Al, can you explain this one to me? How does that make sense?
So let's take a look here. Let's see. So
it's the speech pathology majors. They won't do the language transition. So when people are the trans members, the speech pathology majors, they had an issue that they won't do if you identify as a woman, they won't help you speak like a woman. You remember that article?
Oh, that's right. Yeah, you're on your own when it comes to learning how to speak with your new voice.
Right. That's why undergraduate speech pathology majors.
It took me a second to figure out what I was talking about there.
Yeah, that's why undergraduate speech pathology majors are not going to have jobs after graduation because they don't know how to do that. That's a major part of speech pathology. Okay, what about number 6?
Hire that anti-gay consulting firm to screen this year's Cosmo the Cougar mascot.
Yeah.
That's a problem. They keep getting the wrong guys in there, right?
Yeah, they do. That's for sure. What about number 5?
Keep punishing those dissident adjunct faculty for ecclesiastical reasons, but also don't tell them or their bishops why.
Wait a minute, Al, can you explain this one? How's that working?
Well, they know what they've done.
Yeah, we saw this in BYU, Idaho, where
that's
adjunct
right.
faculty members were getting fired they got their ecclesiastical endorsements, but then they were fired for ecclesiastical reasons, even though they had their endorsements. And their bishop said, well, what the heck? We gave them the endorsement. And they said, well, that's not going to be enough. So yeah, they're going to keep that up, I guess.
It was a pilot episode or pilot run that they tried. Yeah.
Yeah, it sounds like they're going to roll that out to a larger degree. What about
extremely successful?
Yeah, what about number 4?
Censor all human anatomy PowerPoints, and better yet, the textbooks too.
Yeah, we saw this with the leaked PowerPoints in human anatomy classes where all of the private parts and only women's chests were covered up with bubbles. And it looks like they're going to expand that not just for some human anatomy PowerPoints, but to textbooks too.
Yeah,
the pre-med students are on their own for this one.
Yeah, they're going full Warren Jeffs because he did the same thing when he was teaching at Alta Academy in Sandy. He ripped out all those anatomy PowerPoints. Looks like BYU's going full Warren Jeffs on this one. Or how about number 3?
Double the hundreds of millions of dollars in Canadian tithing funneling pure as freshly driven white snow to the Lord's only true and living university.
Now, what's all that about, Al?
Okay, so in the last year, it did come out that they were donating millions and millions of dollars for, let's see, how many, is it thousands or is it just hundreds of students from Canada?
1,400 students have benefited from that Canadian tithing.
Yeah, but they're well funded.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely. It looks like their plan is to double that amount, which seems like a pretty good plan. What about number 2?
Remove all Zach Wilson references banners at Lavelle Edwards Stadium.
Now, why would they want to do that?
Well, he gets around.
Yeah, unfortunately, he's had, I guess, one too many sexual scandals. And it's time to take all those banners down, even though he was a very successful quarterback. And number 1, what is the number 1 official BYU New Year's resolution, Adah?
Permanently ban Duke volleyball from the Smith Fieldhouse.
Yeah, we don't need any more problems from those troublemaking Duke volleyball players. You know what I mean?
We can't have that much diversity in one space because we just can't handle it.
No, we can't. In fact, any volleyball, any schools that have volleyball students, if too many of them are not white, we probably should just ban those too because it creates a lot of problems. Obviously, this is our Mormon News Roundup joke of the week for these official BYU New Year's resolutions.
Gotcha.
Yeah, it's just a joke. Now, if you want to get in touch with us, we're at MormonNewsRoundup.org, or you can send us an email to colub@MormonNewsRoundup.org. We would be delighted to hear from you. And that takes us to our first featured news article, Adah.
All right, this one came out on December 30th, written by Elle Cowley, in the Daily Utah Chronicle. The title of the article is LDS Plastic Surgery Craze is Hypocritical. So, I'm sorry, hang on one sec.
That's all right. It is a hypocritical thing because, I mean, for as much as we talk about the purity of natural beauty, that's not really what people seem to practice, is it?
Oh, absolutely. So according to the report by the Utah Women of Leadership Project, Salt Lake City has the second highest plastic surgeon per capita rate in the country. We're second only to Miami and ahead of Los Angeles.
So there's more plastic surgeons in Salt Lake City than there are in Los Angeles.
Yeah, per capita. Yes.
Oh my goodness.
There are 6 plastic surgeons for every 100,000 people in Utah. And one of the other things the article said that I thought was interesting, I wonder what your guys' take on this is, but it said that surgery here is also much cheaper than the national average. Why do you think that is? Because Utahns are
competition.
Oh, yeah, true. Okay.
Competition drives the price down, I guess.
It sounds like everybody's getting it done, and that's going to, the supply and demand. There's a lot of people doing it. I had no idea. Honestly, I've never really met anyone that I know of that has had surgery, plastic surgery. I lived in Utah for many years. What about you, Adah?
Oh my gosh. Yeah. I mean, I've lived in Utah my whole life, and almost every woman I know has had either some sort of plastic surgery, or it's not always plastic surgery. There's a lot of liposuction, body sculpting, laser lipo, fat freezing, microblading, lip injections, Botox, hair extensions. I don't know if I listed things multiple times, but the list basically goes on and on. And I just think there's this toxic mentality in the LDS culture of like striving to be perfect. But I also think it's not just LDS culture, it's Utah LDS culture. I don't think that this necessarily is outside of Utah. What are your guys' thoughts about that?
It seems like there is a high concentration or a high level of obsession with physical perfection and bringing out that inner beauty through the knife, if necessary. Yeah.
Yeah, Adah, you said that you were in a ward where your bishop's wife ended up getting plastic surgery. Can you tell us about that?
Yes. So I want to say it was probably close to 15 years ago, but there was a conversation among some of the women in the ward where they said, well, the bishop's wife got a boob job. So I think that means that it's fine. Like if it's okay for the bishop's wife, it must be fine for anyone else, you know? And now she's the state president's wife. So, I just thought that was funny. And I know a lot of people, and let me just say, like, I don't have a problem with anybody doing any sort of body modification that they want to do with their bodies.
Yeah.
But I think the point of the article is really more about like the fact that, well, first of all, we profess to like treat our bodies like a temple, and we're not going to, do multiple piercings and tattoos and things like this. But why is that different than all that other stuff that I listed, the plastic surgery and all the other stuff? Like it's hypocritical. It's very hypocritical.
Yeah, we're not going to do piercings or scarring or any kind of, or branding or whatever kind of trends are out there. But we're going to inject a bunch of silicone straight into our chest, right?
Yeah, and like that's
or Botox. Put some Botox in the face, and that's okay. Right.
I think it's really sad because it just is a pressure to look perfect. And it really, I think it takes an extreme toll on women in the church. I did hear one quick observation. Sorry, I'm taking too long on this story, but one person mentioned recently that I was talking to that she thought that women feel a lot of pressure to be perfect for their husbands because in Mormonism, basically they're 100% responsible for their husband's sex lives. Like their bodies are supposed to be the only body their husband ever looked at. If they live to LDS standards, they're virgins when they get married. They stay together forever. They're not supposed to have any other sexual experiences outside of marriage. So that puts a lot of pressure on women. What are your guys' thoughts about that?
Well, it sounds to me like you're also saying that most of this plastic surgery is being done by women. Is that?
Yeah. I think so.
Certainly. Yeah. In fact, Dives, I think you'd be surprised at how many people that actually have had plastic surgery. Because, not everybody advertises it, but it's very common. And yet, a lot of times it's really unnecessary. And for some reason, anytime you find somebody that's like addicted to plastic surgery or cosmetic alteration, they kind of all start to look the same, don't they? They kind of get that fish face, and it's kind of weird. I don't know why everybody's looking for that one particular look.
Well, Al, I think you're vastly overestimating the amount of people that I know and who actually want to be my friend. So I'm not too sure about that, but for our listeners out there, I was giving
you the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah. For our listeners out there, if you want to come over to Anchor, you can send us a voicemail about what do you think about LDS Plastic Surgery Craze being hypocritical. You can drop us a voicemail, which we can play on our next podcast. This does take us to our next article, which is have you guys seen the new Avatar movie, Way of the Water? Did you guys catch that?
I haven't seen it yet.
Haven't. No, I didn't see the first one either.
I can tell you that I did see both of them, and I really enjoyed the Avatar Way of the Water. But what does that have to do with Mormonism? Well, somebody has gone ahead and started translating the hymns, the hymnal, the 1985 hymnal, into Avatar language, also known as Na'vi, the Na'vi language. They started with "I'm a child of God," and they translated it into Na'vi, just in case someone ends up in Pandora and needs to bear their testimony.
Nerd.
And all I can say is this has been an answer to many prayers out there, and it's about time.
Yeah.
I think it's better to translate it into Na'vi than the Deseret alphabet. I can tell you that for a certainty.
And I think it's probably just as useful to translate it into Klingon.
Yeah. Now, and people say, hey, the speaking in tongues is dead, but just look at this hymn. You know, talk about speaking in tongues is alive and well, and I think that the next hymn that they should translate is "Oh Hear the Red Man." What's the name of that one? "Oh Hear the Red Man Wail." What's the name of that hymn that was taken out?
"Oh Hear Me, Red Man" next.
Yeah,
I think, "Oh Hear Me, Red Man." Yeah,
yeah. The one that was taken out. They could do that well. And by the way, is the new hymnal ever going to come out? Is that it's been?
Is that a thing that's in the works or something?
Oh yeah, it's been in the works for about 5 years. They can't really wrap their mind around when the new hymnal is going to come out. If you Google it, it's been a long time.
They've also announced a lot of temples too, so let's not hold our breath.
Yeah, I mean,
they're busy building temples. Yeah, that's
I'm really looking forward to hopefully seeing what is in the new hymnal. That is going to be very interesting to me. But the biggest hymn I think that should be translated into Navi is if you could hide a Kolob, and they should swap Kolob out and make it Pandora. So if you could hide a Pandora, I think that would be a great hymn. I'm looking forward to that myself. That's kind of a small tangent there. Now, our next article here is released on the Deseret News here. This was released on by Kelsey Dallas on January 3rd. Members of the 118th Congress, they were sworn in on Tuesday. We're still figuring out who the Speaker of the House is, but all of the members of Congress, they are given a survey when they are sworn in, and they're asked about their religions. Now, you don't have to answer the religious part, but almost all congressmen, congresswomen do. And how many Latter-day Saints are in the new Congress, Al?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. A lot of them do. It's a big selling point for a lot of them, especially the 9 that identify as LDS. And they all happen to be part of the Republican Party. Right? Oh, no, they're all Republicans.
All 9 of them are Republicans.
That's so shocking.
Yeah, well, or as I like to call it, the Lord's political party.
Yes.
James Faust would not be happy about that, by the way.
Oh, no.
He definitely wouldn't be. So
there's the only Democrat in the history. No, there was another one.
The church used to be heavily Democratic prior to the 1960s and 70s.
Okay, so before my lifetime, yeah.
Yeah, before any of our lifetimes.
Around the Kimball era, but I can't think of who it was.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I'm not too sure about that. I don't know. James Faust is the last one I'm aware of. Yeah. So there's 3 Universalists, 3 Muslims, 3 Buddhists, 2 Hindus, and 9 Latter-day Saints. So we're doing pretty well as far as the numbers that we have in this Congress. So we'll have to wait and see what happens. Now, our next article here is that was a quick article, but our next article here is from the Salt Lake Tribune. And it says why LDS church growth has flamed out and how to relight the fuse. So the question that I have, Adah, is this a stagnation or is this a collapse? What's going on with this article?
Oof. That's a great question. I mean, I think at this point it really is just a stagnation, but I think it's going to be an eventual collapse. What are your thoughts?
When I was growing up, it used to be that the growth was the sign of the divine mandate. They used to read off in General Conference the statistics with pride, talk about the new stakes that were added, the new congregations, the new temples, the number of new members. And, they don't read those statistics anymore in General Conference over the pulpit. Instead, they just publish them in the Liahona or in the Deseret News. Right. Which I think is very interesting. And you know what? The Salt Lake Tribune reached out to the church for this article, and they didn't want to give any response whatsoever to the article. So when membership was going gangbusters, it was talked about a great deal. When membership is not going great, but gangbusters, we have no comment.
Right. They don't want to talk about it. Just pay no attention to that statistic over there, right?
Right. Yeah. There's a new mantra out there that we've noticed from that at least I've noticed from the presiding bishopric and others, and that instead of saying the strength of our church is in the total number of members, it's in the members. It's the strength is in the members themselves now. It's not in growth. It's in the individual's worth. That's where the strength of the church is.
Their worth has gone
up? Well, regardless of how many are left, they will have to be strong enough to shoulder the burden.
Yep.
Well, as there's less people, you've got to hold up. It's kind of like, who was it that held up Moses's arm? So was it?
Let's see. Joshua was on the one side, and
somebody Ben-Hur.
Yeah, probably Ben-Hur was on the other.
I think, not sure, but yeah, with less members, you've got to lift where you stand. You have to lift more. So yeah, each individual member, as membership declines or as the growth stagnates, that they are worth more. And they talk about in this article, LDS Church growth in Africa. It's the church is doing really, really well in Africa. It's going gangbusters there.
Yeah, but the best that they're doing anywhere, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It's the most amount of growth is happening in Africa, but it is the church growth, Mormon growth is lagging when compared to other Christian faiths. In fact, even the RLDS Church, the Community of Christ, it's doing better in Africa than the LDS Church is.
Wow.
That's rough.
And retention in Africa, according to this article, is the church does not release the retention statistics, but it's anecdotally very poor. So yes, the church is doing well in Africa, but not as well as others, and retention is really bad.
It seems like we're getting to the point where you can almost tell how poor the church is doing by if they're not talking about it. Yeah. It's obviously not going their way, right?
Yeah.
In fact, if you think about missionary tactics for years, they have reflected an emphasis on short-term gains rather than long-term retention. That is not really a focus. Right? Baptism is that's it.
Yeah.
Yes. Once you get a baptism, you turn it over to the ward, and good luck with you. It's not missionaries are not geared. We're not trained. When I went to the MTC, it wasn't about training people for long-term conversion. It was just about converting them in the near term, baptizing, and confirming them.
Yep. Yeah, definitely.
They don't have any full-time retention staff like they do with the full-time recruiting staff, if you want to use like corporate terms, right?
That's a really good point, Al. That you could have retention missionaries whose only purpose is to retain members.
Yeah.
So certain missionaries
to help get them to the temple, right?
Yeah. That's a fabulous idea. In fact, this article talks about how to relight the fuse. I think that's a fabulous idea. If you compare the church growth in Africa, again, with like Jehovah's Witnesses, we're kind of similar to the Jehovah's Witnesses. We're a restorationist religion. They have double the membership that the LDS Church has. It's partially because the church didn't want to do any missionary work prior to 1978 in Africa because we would have had to send in white priesthood holders to man those congregations. So we haven't been in Africa really that long at all.
Yeah, they'd have to explain to Black members why they can't hold the priesthood and where that came from and what their beliefs on that are. And now they can just baptize people and not say anything about the past racist teachings and just hope they don't figure it out. And that could be part of the retention problem.
It very well could be. There's an article that came out here in the Journal of Mormon Sociological Studies here by David G. Stewart, who was on Mormon Land on this last week on the podcast. And he talked about the end of growth, fading prospects for Latter-day Saint expansion. Basically, he postulated that the church, based on its current projections, it is going to peak at 6 million active members and that it will never get above that number based upon the way that the church operates, the way that it retains people, and that we're going to see a peak of 6 million active members. And this is a peer-reviewed journal that is a very, an ethnographic study that is in a peer-reviewed journal by a sociologist. 6 million active members. That's maybe 1 million more than we have now.
Yeah, interesting.
That's very surprising because it used to be, 20 years ago with the church the church projections back in the 90s, the church was growing so fast that they were talking that there was going to be 200 million Mormons by 2100.
Yeah.
And then the internet became a thing.
Yeah, and then the internet became a thing. If you think back to Elder Bednar about the National Press Club briefing back in May, he was asked about the church growth in particular, and that's why we said that the Elder Bednar's talk at the National Press Club was so important. He was asked about the lack of church growth, and he said that the LDS Church was a lot like other religions, that everyone's in a bit of a stagnation, and that the reason that people are leaving religion altogether is that they are not receiving the answers from religions that they actually need.
Yeah.
What do you think about that, Adah?
I think that's spot on, actually, because people are not, they're not connecting with what it is religion is trying to teach them or trying to put in their minds. I think people are being a lot more logically thinking and scientifically thinking, and these religious ideas are just not adding up. And when churches like the Mormon Church just cannot answer the questions that people have. I mean, why would they stick around?
A lot of times religions will claim to have the answers, but a lot of times those answers are, we don't know. And that's not a very satisfying answer for people who are really wondering and looking for answers, right?
Absolutely. You know, this article talks about how the church is underperforming as a whole in the entire world when compared to our most nearest cousins when it comes to religions is really the Jehovah's Witnesses and the Seventh-day Adventists, because all three of us are basically, we're proselytizing religions. We were restorationists, and we're like 1800s. So that's comparing likes to like. And we are underperforming compared to our sister religions. In fact, Jehovah's Witnesses and Seventh-day Adventists, they have a much longer prep times for prospective converts. You know, Mormon missionaries, they can get into Africa, they can baptize somebody in a week's time frame. That does not happen with Jehovah's Witnesses. You have to study with the missionaries for at least a year. I don't know how long it is with Seventh-day Adventists, but it's pretty long. And that really helps with retention.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if the church wants to retain converts, they need to increase those prep times so that people are not falling away after just a couple of months. And the other thing that the church really needs to do, if you want to relight the fuse, is there was an Ensign article back from like the year 2000, I think it was, which showed that in a poll that only like 3 to 5% of members did any missionary work in the last year. It's a very small percentage of people who are getting out there, unlike Jehovah's Witnesses, where if you want to be a card-carrying Jehovah's Witness, you have to go out there and preach and pound the streets. That's just, it's not part of, even though it's ever remember a missionary was that David O. McKay, it's just not put into reality.
Yeah, I would say that's definitely true.
Yeah. Anything else on this article, guys?
Hey everybody, it's D-Vase here. Thanks so much for listening to the Mormon News Roundup. If you haven't heard about Anchor by Spotify, it's the easiest way to make a podcast with everything you need all in one place. Allow me to explain. Anchor has the tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. When hosting on Anchor, you can distribute your podcast on listening platforms like Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and more. It's everything that you need to make a podcast all in one place. And best of all, Anchor is totally free. So download the Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started.
No, I think we're ready to move on. And this next article is a real heart-wrencher. We did have a real nasty tragedy this last week in the state of Utah. And this one's coming from the Deseret News from Kyle Dunphy from January 5th. We had a father commit a murder-suicide. He killed 8 family members, including his wife's mother and all of their kids. It was a real tragedy this week, and he shot himself last of all. And sadly, when it comes to these situations, rather than commit suicide first, they always commit murder and then suicide at last. It's just it's real ugly. There's not much that's known about this. The police are still doing an investigation to see how it went down, what happened. It is quite shocking because we've got teenagers that were there, we've got adults, and we've also got young kids. So, what was his method for murdering all this whole family and killing 8 people? I mean, number 8 being himself, but still, his wife, who she in December had filed for divorce. He was living in the basement. This was really the way that this was going down was just a typical divorce. It wasn't supposed to be anything nasty or ugly, but it turned out that way, and it just became a big tragedy.
Yeah, my heart really goes out. Let me ask you, Adah, do you think anecdotally, I don't have any evidence for this, but it seems like LDS men in particular seem more likely to become what was so-called family annihilators. I don't know if that's, I can't prove that, but it seems like that is the case. Do you think that is?
Oh, man, I don't know. It's so tough because we do have lots of examples of this happening among Mormon people. And I wonder, I would assume that mental health definitely plays a role in this. And we aren't exactly known for having the best mental health in Mormonism. So I don't know. It's tough. I did also notice that his last name was Hate.
That's right. Mm-hmm.
Like David B. Hate.
I'm sure they're related. David B. Haight was from South Central Utah, and that's where the city of Enoch, Utah, is located. It's a small town down there, kind of by Manti.
That's a good point, Adah, because Utah leads the nation in diagnosed mental health disorders. Up to 30% of Utahns in the last year were diagnosed by a doctor with a mental health disorder.
Yeah.
And that definitely contributes to, can only assume that it would contribute to these type of situations.
Yeah.
Yeah. Statistically speaking, also in the state of Utah, we do have a higher rate of when it comes to divorce, domestic violence.
Oh, yeah.
Specifically from husband to wife. So
That's
yeah.
Yeah, that's associated with divorce.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Wow.
So, and they do say that that's kind of the dangerous time is right after you decide that you're going to split up. That's the most dangerous time, specifically for the wife or the female spouse. This is that because if something's going to happen, that's when it's going to be triggered. And,
well, this just reminds me of Joshua Powell and. Yeah. What was his wife's name again? Is Susan Powell?
Susan Powell, yeah.
Susan Powell, Charlie, and what was the other boy's name? Charlie? And,
I can't remember.
It might have been, but that was a horrible story. That was a family annihilation. And then there was another LDS family in Texas, right, Al?
That's right. A few years ago, I can't remember the name of the family, but it was all over national news. There was only one daughter that survived. The ex-husband traveled from Utah down to Texas, murdered his ex-wife and their kids and her family members that were there. The only person that survived it was a girl. She got shot in the head, but she feigned being dead, and he left. He's doing life in prison now.
Well, this is on the heels of the Colorado shooter that we had just about 2 months ago, who was also LDS, who was involved with another big shooting. So this is two LDS, basically mass killings in the last couple of months. And this used to be something that was incredibly rare.
Yeah, murder among the Mormons. I mean, it's kind of a big thing.
Yeah, that's really sad. Let's move along to our next article here, which is This Week in Mormons here. They released their year in review. This was from Kurt Frankum on December 31st, 2022, where they went over the top news articles of the year. And we also did that as well on the Mormon News Roundup. We did our top 10 Mormon-related news articles of the year, which was one of our best episodes. And I compared these two lists together, the This Week in Mormons and our list. And this is basically the only two podcasts and shows out there that really cover Mormon news on a weekly basis. I don't count Mormon Land as Mormon news because they do a lot of deep dives and other things. And so I compared our list to theirs, and I was shocked about the differences. First of all, on their list, This Week in Mormons, the AP sex abuse scandal story, it only got an honorable mention. It wasn't even the top 10, whereas tithing settlement getting changed name to tithing declaration, that was a top story. What?
Oh, crazy to me.
Are you serious? The tithing declaration being switched, just a name change, that's a top story. But the AP sex,
yeah, right.
That is not a top story, folks. I hate to break it to you. The AP sex abuse was our number 2 story of the year.
Yeah.
Okay, but that's not where all the differences are. I listened to This Week in Mormons, by the way, on the week that the AP sex abuse scandal hit, because I really wanted to hear how they approached that story, because that is not a very flattering story for the church, and that is something that they are loath to cover. And you know what? On the biggest story of the year, they spent 5 minutes on that article, but they spent 10 minutes on the BYU Alumni Food Magazine on that particular week.
Okay. So they had some great recipes in there.
I agree. That's one of my favorite episodes. Where are the priorities here? What is eternally important? The BYU Alumni Food Magazine or this horrible AP sex abuse that is literally burning down the net? Okay,
right.
So
and I think their reason or their excuse for not covering it more is to say, well, everybody's already covered it.
What?
Really? Yeah. Then what's the point? I mean, because here at the Mormon News Roundup, we're about the news, whether it's for good or bad. We are just here to report it.
Yeah.
And offer our commentary.
Yeah, sure. They also, the Under the Banner of Heaven, which was the biggest Mormon media event of the year, that never did make their list. The Elder Bednar at the National Press Club briefing, which in my opinion is the most important Mormon talk of the year, was his address there. The only time that any senior leader took a Q&A. That was the most important of it. That didn't make their list. That's Canadian Australian tithing scandal. Nope, that's not on there. Brad Wilcox Tri-State Fireside. Nope. And this is the biggest one. The Joseph Smith photo. This was Salt Lake Tribune, by the way, did their top 10 list. And for them, the Joseph Smith photo was the number one story that didn't even crack their top 10 at all.
There's a good argument for that to be the number one LDS or Mormon related story in the news this year.
Yeah, I agree. And I can see I can see why the other ones they leave out, because clearly they don't want to talk about the bad things in Mormonism. But this one seems like a neutral story. Like it's not bad or good towards the church. And it's a pretty big deal.
Mm-hmm. Well, what I think, Adah, is they don't like it because it kind of takes the mystical, the mystique of Joseph Smith away and makes him more human. And they realize that, wait, he's just a guy. I mean, and not even a very good-looking guy.
No, he's kind of
he's definitely not the guy on the cover of Teachings of the Prophet Joseph Smith, right?
Right, yeah.
Yeah, so by clicks, the Salt Lake Tribune said that the Joseph Smith photo was their number one story of the year. And I think we put it at number 5. And I'm starting to wonder if maybe we should have moved it up a little bit, because that was a pretty big story. That does not make This Week in Mormons. If you want real news coverage, how are you going to find it in This Week in Mormons when they won't say that the biggest news story of the year is not covered? And finally, they said that the Tonga volcano eruption was one of their top stories. The one back in January. No, that was not a top Mormon story of the year. Sorry.
That's a reach.
I heard that story. This is the first I'm hearing of a Tonga volcano.
So earlier in 2022, there was an eruption in the Tongan Islands from a volcano that had been dormant but became active, so it just kind of blew its top. I don't think anybody was injured or died from it.
No.
It kind of messed up supply chains for a while there. But
right.
Then again, everybody's supply chains have been messed up ever since COVID, right?
Right.
Yeah. So
definitely newsworthy, like top of the list, newsworthy there.
I think they're saying that because, the LDS is the most popular religion in the country of Tonga, but it's just not
stretch still.
Yeah, it's a big stretch.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we would like to hear what you have to say about that particular one. If you come on over to Twitter, we're at News Mormon, and we also release all of these episodes onto YouTube. We would love to hear if you think that This Week in Mormons, if you think that their top 10 is better than ours, then give us your thoughts over there. Now, speaking of New Year's resolutions, Adah, Dieter Uchdorf, he gave us some very interesting New Year's resolutions. Can you walk us through that?
Yes, this was a fantastic Happy New Year tweet from Dieter F. Uchdorf. He says, first of all, he's got a picture of him at his desk in his office holding up a little fortune cookie piece of paper, and it says, "Happy New Year. I recently opened a fortune cookie that read, 'Tomorrow will be an important day for you.' What a great motto for our lives. We make tomorrow an important day by making today important. Today is yesterday's tomorrow, and today is tomorrow's yesterday." I had to read that part like 3 or 4 times before it made any sense to me. That was so confusing. I think it's really interesting.
You wasted way too much effort on that, Adah. It's not profound. It's not deep. Yeah, today is tomorrow's yesterday, and it's like yesterday's tomorrow. No kidding.
Right?
First of all, I think he looks very handsome in this photo. Am I in agreement there? I mean, he looks really good.
He is definitely the most dashing of all the apostles.
Yes.
He's got a twinkle in his eye. His hair is always impeccable. He has great fashion. He's a handsome man. I'll just put it that. But
always
it is
has
nice.
been.
Absolutely. Now, it is nice to see, though, that the church is finally returning to its occult roots, because fortune cookies, that's, the early Mormonism and the magic world view. We used to have seer stones. We used to have magic talismans. We used to have oversized spectacles. We used to have we used to have incantations to remove books of scriptures from the sides of the mountain. He's returning us to our roots.
Yes. Yeah, because really the last holdout is the patriarchal blessings. Other than that, everything else has kind of gone away.
That's a good point. It does remind me of what Brigham Young he taught. He said that there is no truth but what belongs to the gospel. If you can find a truth in heaven or earth, it belongs in our doctrines. And this was from the Teachings of the Presidents of the Church, page 16. However, guys, I didn't know that extended to the Hunan Chinese discount restaurant on South Temple Street.
If it's true,
that's not what I was really expecting. The pace of revelation, though, are you with me that it's really picking up these days? Because the revelation is really increasing. It reminds me of what President Nelson said in the last General Conference. He said, "So many wonderful things are ahead in the coming days. We will see the greatest manifestations of the Savior's power that the world has ever seen." Is this in direct fulfillment of that?
That's a manifestation of the Savior's power, I would say.
I stand to reason. Now, Adah, if you look in the photo on the right-hand side, is that me or is that a coffee pot?
So I'm not 100% sure if it's a coffee pot. I kind of think that it's a teapot. It's definitely one of those kettles that warms up. I don't know. I don't think it looks like a coffee pot, but I could totally be wrong.
I've seen a lot of should we call it a carafe? I've seen a lot of carafes like this where I think it's just a vessel to hold water.
Okay.
So I don't. I mean, a lot of people point that out. Hey, is that a coffee pot in his office? I mean, there are coffee pots that look like that, or kettles that look like that. You're absolutely right, Adah. But I think this is just a carafe, because I mean, you've seen them in courtroom dramas where the prosecutor has to pour himself a glass of water, and he picks up a little carafe looking, or a little pitcher, and pours them. So, that's what it is, I think.
I would think that if he needed that, he would have his little white pitcher from the second anointing there.
Yeah, exactly.
Now,
everybody gets one of those in the second anointing, right?
I'm starting to think that maybe this is why he got demoted from the first presidency, because he wants the church to go back to its occult roots.
Yeah,
could be.
I, for one, I'm welcoming to go back to our cult roots. And it seems like I remember an old general conference. I can't remember which one it was, but it seems like somebody said that you're always supposed to pay your tithing before you tip your Chinese server. Do you guys remember which one that was in?
Oh, that sounds like Harold B. Lee. But,
he was big on tipping those Chinese servers. I do remember that.
He was also really racist, but yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's true. Now, Adah, I was always told that if you add the phrase "in bed" to the end of any fortune cookie, it makes it a lot better. So what happens if you add that to this fortune cookie?
Yeah, so tomorrow will be an important day for you in bed.
Whoa!
Yeah. Oh, that's exciting.
This is getting better and better. I like where this is going.
Yes, definitely.
Now, if you look in the comments section, Adah, what do you see in the comments section? If you scroll down here, what I see in the comments section is profound. Wow, I didn't know this before. Thanks so much. What do you see in this comment section under this?
Yeah, I see a mixed bag a little bit, because definitely, like, several people say, thank you so much for, everything you do. And this is so profound. But there is a couple of negative comments here. One that says, "You are a profoundly immoral man. Stop lying by omission and tell the whole truth."
But I like that.
Yeah.
The thing about relying on fortune cookies, though, is, my last fortune cookie said that I was supposed to invest in FTX cryptocurrency.
So, did you?
Of that one.
I didn't follow it, but I guess that's, I can't tell the difference between a good fortune from a fortune cookie. I can't tell the difference between what is inspired and what isn't, but I guess that's why I'm not sustained as a prophet, seer, and revelator, is he can tell the difference.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm. It makes sense. Prophets really do make you smarter and help you see around corners, now that you mention it.
Definitely.
Yeah, because I can't tell the difference between a random fortune cookie and something that's inspired and very profound. Now, Adah, do you think that this should be, based on how inspiring this is, do you think it should be added to the Doctrine and Covenants or just an official declaration?
No, definitely canonized for sure.
Yeah, but that goes without saying. Yes, we know that. But where? DNC section 139? I think that would be amazing. Or official declaration 3.
Yeah, like so people can frame it and put it on the wall, like next to this, the Jesus Christ and the Family Proclamation.
Well, no, I swapped it out for my Family Proclamation. I took the Family Proclamation out. I put the fortune cookie in there. It's kind of small, but I think it looks fantastic.
It's definitely more concise than the Family Proclamation. And,
it
says about as much.
Yeah,
absolutely.
It's easier to memorize.
Yeah,
true.
Memorize those, right? So.
Yeah, we do have a poll of the week that goes along with this particular article, and it's available only on Anchor. But if you come on over, you can take the Mormon News Roundup poll of the week. And Al, what is the poll of the week?
Okay, so down the bottom of our page, we've got, or the bottom of our document, we have our Mormon News Roundup poll of the week. The question this week is, what occult message source would you most like to receive LDS New Year's divine knowledge from?
Oh, there's a lot that I have that I would love to get from. Adah, can you read? Is it number 1?
Okay, hang on 1 second. I've gotten lost here.
It's all the way at the bottom.
Okay. Poll of the week. Yes, and they're 1 through 7.
Yep,
okay.
There we go.
Okay, number 1 says, Liahona Magazine First Presidency Messages from Ouija Boards.
Well, if we're getting them from fortune cookies, I think Ouija boards would be a step up, right?
Yeah.
I think so.
One would imagine. Or how about number 2?
Church news headlines channeled by crystal balls.
Ooh,
oh, I like that.
Or or maybe those magic 8 balls. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Either one. Anywhere from occult. I'm liking this occult feel. I like where this is going. Number 3.
Friend magazine articles inspired by dowsing rods, Rod of Aaron.
Wait a minute, dowsing rods. What? Wait a minute, Al. What are we talking about? Dowsing rods?
The dowsing rod that let's see. Oliver Cowdery used the dowsing rod the way that Joseph Smith used the rock in the hat.
Right.
That was his super special power that he had.
I wonder if we still have the dowsing rod in the church archives. Somebody ought to bring that thing out during General Conference. That'd be amazing.
Yeah, it's definitely got to be there with the rock.
Yeah.
Well, we've seen the rock, but we don't have the hat. See, what we need is the dowsing rod. We need the hat. We need the Jupiter talisman. We need all of this stuff out, but we haven't seen it, by the way.
Yeah.
Or how about number 4?
Yeah, this one is uplifting General Conference talks from a rock in a hat.
Absolutely.
Oh, that would be fun.
Yeah.
I promise you that it would go viral on TikTok like you wouldn't believe.
Yes.
Yeah.
You want to get your message out there, bring out the rock in the hat, do the General Conference right from there. I promise you, whatever it is that you're saying will be viewed by millions.
Millions. Yep.
Absolutely. Or how about number 5?
Temple recommend interviews fact-checked by Jupiter talisman amulets.
Wait a minute. What does that have to do with anything? Al, where's the Jupiter talisman amulets? What is that? Where have we...
So the Jupiter talisman was an amulet that was kind of a little trinket or... what did they call that?
It was a coin. It was basically the size of a coin.
Yeah, and Joseph Smith put it in his pocket for protection when he was in Carthage jail.
And supposedly in Liberty,
in Liberty Jail too. Yeah.
Yeah. Suppose this is all from legend and rumor, but
but it's there for protection to use its divine or cosmic powers, because it takes the powers of the cosmos from Jupiter, and it uses that power to protect you.
Absolutely.
How
and
is
if you're
that fact checking, is that?
There's a lot of divine power. Don't ask why. Ours is but to do or die. It's better than the power of discernment. I can tell you that for a certainty.
This is exactly why we need someone like Joseph Smith that knows how to read the powers and to detect what they're trying to tell them. Right? Mm-hmm. So you can translate that for us.
Right. We all know that people have lied to their bishops for temple recommend interviews. We know that for a certainty. But if those bishops had a Jupiter talisman amulet, there's no way that they would be fooled. That's why we need to bring it back. Absolutely not. Or how about number 6?
Patriarchal blessings sourced from the New York Post horoscope page.
Ooh, I think I'm an Aries. I can't remember, though. I'm not sure about that. Or finally, number 7.
Fast and testimony meetings upgraded to spiritual seances.
Now, that sounds like fun.
Honestly, that is not very far off from where the fast and testimony meetings are now.
Well, yeah, really, because I decided that I didn't want to go to church today because it was snowing so hard, but something told me I needed to go, and so I got in my car and it instantly got in a car wreck. But here I am.
Well, remember, the purpose of a seance is to commune with spirits. So your story didn't have a spirit. It would only be
right.
if my dead grandma told me not to come or whatever it was.
Your dead grandma saved him in the car accident, right?
Right. Or your dead grandma revealed to you your genealogy. Those are all seances. That's what a seance is. You're trying to talk to dead spirits. Okay, so Adah, which one of those, this is our poll of the week, which one of those occult, now the occult's in fashion, this is fantastic. Occult is back. This is great. This is going to be amazing. This is going to be a great year. 2023, put it on your calendars. We're doing fortune cookies. What else are we going to, what kind of sources do you want to get your LDS knowledge from for your New Year's resolution?
So I think all of these are really good ones, but it's no question for me. It's General Conference Talks from a Rock and a Hat.
Oh boy,
I like that one.
Yeah,
for me, it's I like the crystal balls or the seances. I think I'd probably go with number 7 myself.
Yeah.
What would be amazing is if all of so there's only so many rocks to go around, but if everybody had their own hat that was on their lap on that row, with the 15 people, if they all had the hat that fit to their face,
and then they move the rock from hat to hat.
Yeah, no, you just leave the rock up on the lectern. You just leave it up on the podium. The next guy puts it in. That would just be so lit. That would just be amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Dieter Uchdorf, he's leading the way on this. So this is fantastic.
Hey there, brothers and sisters. Thanks for listening to the Mormon News Roundup. And if you are enjoying this show, please consider making a donation. Patreon makes an important contribution to helping us ruminate on the great and spacious beehive here. So thanks so much to everyone for supporting us on patreon.com.
Now, our next article here is the every year there's the ex-Mormon of the Year poll, and this is put out by MainStreetPlaza.com, and it's time to vote for the ex-Mormon of the Year in 2022. The poll was put out just a couple of days ago, January 2nd, 2023, and here's your choices. We have James Huntsman. He's suing the church for his back tithing, right?
Yes.
And we have Lindsay Hansen Park. Who's that, Adah?
Oh, she's the podcaster for Year of Polygamy and Sunstone. She's an awesome historian and overall just amazing person. And yes, she's a fantastic ex-Mormon.
Yes, absolutely. And we have Evan Smith. Now, I believe who is Evan Smith? I'm trying to remember who that is.
Something by Evan.
You know what? I don't know who that one is. I should have looked this up beforehand.
Podcaster, isn't he?
I think he was who did something with a gay. He was LGBTQ. He's the son of a Mormon bishop. I'm not real sure. I don't know. I'm not very familiar with him. Sorry about that. Yeah. But I am familiar with the next one. Who's Sandra Tanner?
She's
the head of Utah Lighthouse Ministries. She and Gerald Tanner published a bunch of books that helped a lot of people find the history of the LDS Church.
Yeah, and her the Utah Lighthouse Ministries is closing. It's I don't know if it's closing very, very imminently.
In March, at the end of February, it'll close.
Right,
yeah, she's retiring and closing the doors. So kind of sad.
Like 80. She's like 80 years old. She deserves to retire.
Oh yeah,
she's been doing it a long time.
You betcha. And next up is, wait a minute here, Russell M. Nelson, ex-Mormon of the Year. How does that make any sense? Explain that to me.
Do you want me to explain this one to you?
Yeah. What? How can he be called an ex-Mormon of the Year? I don't get it.
He's an ex-Mormon because he's the one that put the kibosh on using the term Mormon, and instead said, "Oh no, call us Latter-day Saints, not Mormons, because that's a victory for Satan."
Okay, so he used to be a Mormon. And now he's an ex-Mormon because do not call him a Mormon.
Saint, right? Mm-hmm.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha. That makes sense. Okay. And we also have Mark Hoffman. Mark Hoffman, he did all the forgeries back in the
and why would he be the ex-Mormon here, though? That was a long time.
Let's see. His whole thing, the murder among the Mormons.
That happened this year. Yeah, that's
true. Was that this year or last year? I guess it was earlier this year, wasn't it?
Oh. Yeah, I guess. I'm not sure. I thought it was
in March. Yeah.
Yeah, good
March.
call.
Okay, yeah.
Okay, and then we have Jacinda Ardern. Who's that?
Ooh, I don't know.
She's the Prime Minister of New Zealand.
Oh,
That's
yes.
right. Prime
Right,
Minister.
so she's perhaps the most politically powerful ex-Mormon in the world.
Mhm. Yeah.
You
I
know,
love
Prime Minister of a whole country. Then we have Nemo the Mormon. Who's that?
Let's see. He's a podcaster as well. He's
Does a
kind of
YouTube channel.
Yeah, a personality, should we say?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Does a
he's the
YouTube
one
channel.
that records the temple movies. He gets people to go in the temple and record.
That's New Name Noah.
Oh, New Name Noah. Okay, yeah, I'm getting confused.
Yeah,
this is Nemo. Yes, I love Nemo the Mormon. He's the British guy, right?
Yeah, right.
There
You
we go.
gotcha. There you go. And finally, wait a minute. David Archuleta, he's not an ex-Mormon yet, is he?
Once you flip that switch, the light usually comes on.
Just don't hold your breath, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so who are you voting for here, Adah? Who is the ex-Mormon of the year?
Ooh, that's a good question. So is this based on who I like the most or who I think deserves that title the most?
It's just what you feel. This is your time to shine.
Okay, so I would probably vote for David Archuleta, even though maybe he's not officially ex, but we all kind of watched his faith crisis in real time. If you're paying attention to David Archuleta, which I definitely was, love him. And I feel like his faith crisis like literally happened in front of our eyes as he like posted things and then said things, and we were just like, oh my gosh, it's happening, you know. So I love that story.
Yeah.
Al, what about you, Al?
I actually voted just now, and let me tell you, this is really cool. So once you vote, it gives you the results, and you can see where it's at. I personally voted for Sandra Tanner because I think this has been a big year for her. She's had a lot of attention after her book was shown on Under the Banner of Heaven.
Yes.
So, I think she's been very influential. And furthermore, I think she's been an extremely influential person for decades with regards to Mormonism. So, that's why I voted for her.
Yeah, when I'm looking at the voting, the problem for me is that David Archuleta, as far as I know, is a member of record. I don't count him as an ex-Mormon.
Okay,
Nemo
so we
the
have
Mormon,
to take him off the top. Okay.
Just my opinion. Nemo the Mormon is literally a Mormon. How can you say he's an ex-Mormon when his title is the Mormon? He is a member of record. Lindsay Hansen Park is also on the record as a member of record. Russell M. Nelson is obviously, technically, by the way, Russell M. Nelson is the only true member of the church.
Yeah, he's the one. He's the answer that I like the best, though, because he did it to himself.
Well,
he's an ex-Mormon because he doesn't want the word.
Well, and if you go off that logic, every single member of the church is an ex-Mormon, right?
Exactly, right? Yeah, because I mean, you see it all over Facebook and the internet. Oh, missionaries, I don't know what you mean by this term Mormon, but I'm a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints.
Right.
So hokey. But...
Well, the only person I would like to see up there that they're missing, for me, it would be Satan. Because wouldn't you consider Satan to be an ex-Mormon too? So I was always taught that in order to go to the outer darkness, that you had to have been a Mormon. So therefore, would Satan not be an ex-Mormon?
If not the first ex-Mormon, right?
Yes, definitely.
Yeah.
Right, but that was before Mormon was born on earth.
Yeah.
So, but Mormon would have been in the pre-existence as a prophet, and everybody would have known, man, you're a really important guy since your name is going to be known, throughout the world, right? So I would assume that Satan would be qualified as an ex-Mormon, which also makes me think, if you think back to the pre-existence, Russell M. Nelson must have been there in the pre-existence thinking about the word Mormon at the time, all the way from these eons, and just biding his time to when he could get rid of it. He's been thinking about this for an eternity.
Oh, that must just be grinding away at him.
Maybe so.
A long time.
He's been waiting literally an eternity. But
he waited, and just in this mortal life, he waited over 90 years to get that. I mean, yeah.
Absolutely.
And that's just in this life. I mean, the pre-mortal existence is a whole nother ballgame.
Yeah, you bet.
Yeah.
Okay, now we got a three last articles to get through here. We're going to run a little bit long here, but this is a good episode. Now, this is a real quick article, and I found this absolutely fascinating. So, in Japan, they passed a new law. This is on PBS. A new law in Japan takes aim at unification church's coercive fundraising tactics. This was released on December 10th, 2022, but it could have ramifications for not only the Unification Church, which is also known as the Moonies. It could have ramifications for other churches, including the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. So what this new law does in Japan is it allows believers, other donors, and their families to seek the return or refund of monies that were given to religious groups and organizations that solicited those funds by any of the following. If your church or religion solicits funds by coercion, by threats, or, and this is the big one, linking donations to spiritual salvation, your family members can get your money back from those organizations.
Mm-hmm.
I think James Huntsman would like this law to be put into.
Oh, you bet he would.
Yeah.
You bet he would. Japan is a very secular society, but do you think that this law should be passed in the United States?
Personally, absolutely.
Yeah.
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 I agree.
I don't think it's ever.
I hope
it'll
catch
will
on.
be. See, I don't think it's going to come to the United States anytime soon. But other countries that are more secular could see if this works in Japan, and you could see other countries that are far more secular, like Australia or like European countries like Sweden, which take a very dim view of religions in general. You could see this law go to those countries, and this could already have ramifications in Japan for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. This legislation could easily be outsourced to other countries.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Does the church link donations to spiritual salvation?
Yeah.
It certainly does.
I think that there is a strong argument to be made to say that it does. So I'm be very interested to see if how this plays out in Japan, and if it plays out in other countries. Now we have two last articles here. Peggy Fletcher Stack here asked the question: what has been the hallmark for LDS President Russell Nelson's 5 years of leadership? So he's been at the helm now for exactly at 5 years, just right around 5 years. Now the question here is, what will he be remembered for? Let us assume that, heaven forbid that he were to pass away right in the middle of this podcast. What would he be most remembered for, and why, based on his first 5 years of his administration? What do you think, Adah?
I think disowning the word Mormon, the nickname, is what I'll probably always remember him as.
Uh-huh.
Mm-hmm. What do you think, Al?
I'm right there with Adah. Complete agreement. Although I have to say, Dives, if I'm gonna sustain you as prophet if I wake up tomorrow morning and find out that tonight, while we were doing this podcast recording, he happened to pass away.
Well, I would look at it as a fulfillment of that Chinese fortune cookie. Tomorrow, what was the exact message? I've got it right up here on my wall. It said tomorrow will be. What was the exact message? I've got it up here on my wall here.
Tomorrow will be an important day for you.
Yeah, I would look at it as a fulfillment of that prophecy. Now,
Russell M. Nelson's the one that kicked Dieter Uchdorf out of the, presidency, the first presidency. So I think that would be huge for him, right? He'd be so happy.
Yeah, it would be. Now,
going back to that whole thing, there's kind of like that joke that they have outside of a bunch of pubs. It's like, oh, free beer tomorrow, meaning that tomorrow never comes, right? Because tomorrow will be today as soon as it becomes today.
Well, just remember that tomorrow is the day after tomorrow's yesterday.
That's right. Yeah.
And yesterday is today.
So dumb.
And yesterday is tomorrow's day before yesterday.
This was such a nothing sandwich, and yet we're getting so many miles out of it.
It was a nothing cookie.
Yeah, for sure. This wasn't even a sandwich.
No, it wasn't a sandwich. So Russell M. Nelson, I think he will be definitely known for eliminating. It's not just about getting rid of the word Mormon. It's about renaming everything. The America's Choir, you renamed the Mormon Tabernacle Choir. Now no one even knows what the name of the choir is.
Yeah. Nobody even knows they still exist. I bet they're probably like, oh, did they just disband and go away, or?
A big thank you to our sponsor, Signature Books, for supporting us here at the Mormon News Roundup. Please go over to signaturebooks.com and check out some of the latest publications that they have. Currently, they have things like Lighthouse, the Gerald and Sandra Tanner story by Ronald V. Huggins, one of the stories about the two most famous critics of Mormonism today. We've also got the story of Dr. Martha Hughes Cannon, a biography, suffragist, senator, and plural wife. That one is by Constance Lieber. And then we've also got a really good one here called DNA Mormon by Benjamin E. Park. So for all of your interest in Mormon studies and research, go over to signaturebooks.com and support our sponsor. Thank you.
You renamed home teaching, you made it ministering. You renamed tithing settlement, you called it declaration. You renamed all the buildings at the Provo MTC. You renamed the word Mormon. So you're just renaming everything. I think that he will probably be best known for that.
Which, to me, just amounts to pettiness. It's just... All of this is so inconsequential and so unsubstantial. It's just petty.
Is he trying to piss Gordon B. Hinckley off?
I think so. I think he had a big issue with Gordon B. Hinckley.
Yeah, he had to change the Mormon thing. He also had to beat him in number of temples built. He also had to beat him in his age. I think when he turned 97, he was officially the oldest prophet other than Gordon B. Hinckley. So I think it was all a massive competition for him to just beat Gordon B. Hinckley at everything.
Oh, yeah, there was a rivalry there.
Yeah.
Well, I think if that was his goal, he's definitely accomplished it. Now, other than the renaming of it, we also have a couple of other things that people have postulated that he could be best known for. The huge drops in attendance and membership that has now been nicknamed the Exodus, by the way. Or was it the reducing church to 2 hours, or the massive temple building projects? He's announced 118 temples by himself. Or eliminating youth programs. No more Boy Scouts, no more road shows, no more cultural celebrations. All the pageants are gone. Or how about missionaries calling home once a week? Or repealing the policy of exclusion. Do you think that any of those are going to be what he's known for, or still the renaming?
I think his big thing is trying to get rid of the term Mormon.
Yeah, I think that's his main focus. But I was going to say, I think you forgot one. It was he canceled the priesthood session, but then he brought.
That's right. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, good point. Good point.
Yeah.
You know, especially for non-members or persons of no religion whatsoever, the Mormon thing I think is a really big deal. That's why Bednar was asked about it at the National Press Club. But I think for Mormons in general, I actually think that maybe it's the massive temple building that is the most important.
Maybe,
so,
yeah.
I don't know. For our listeners out there, would you please drop us a comment? Would you rate us with 5 stars? Would you let us know what you think are what has been the hallmark of LDS President Russell Nelson's 5 years of leadership? Let us know. We're very interested in hearing from you. That does take us to our final news article of the week. This was a big week here, but this is Russell M. Nelson's inspiring message for the new year. So he tweeted this out right on the new year, right on January 1st, 9:00, bright and early in the morning. And he tweeted this out on his official handle, which is at Nelson Russell M. And he said, "For me, deep sea fishing has been infrequent but instructive. Success requires patience, perseverance, and prayer. As we begin this new year and make resolutions to improve things in our lives, these 3 requisites for successful fishing can help us." Now, can you describe the photo that went along with this, Adah?
Ooh, let's see. I'm not looking at it right now. Hang on. Let me click on it. So the first thing that I notice is that there's land in the background, which I think you were going to mention, weren't you?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, it says he's deep sea fishing, but as you pointed out, there he is on the side of a boat. He's got a fishing rod there, but it's deep sea fishing. But there's land in the back. How deep can it be if you're within sight of land? I'm sorry, I'm not a fisherman. I don't know.
Maybe 100 feet deep. I mean, that far off of shore, it's not going to be that deep, but not miles and miles deep for sure.
Yeah, I mean,
he's not out in open ocean, let's say.
No, it can't be that deep of deep sea fishing. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
Now, I tweeted this out, by the way, as a joke that I tweeted out the meme, and this was one of the first memes that the Mormon News Roundup actually went a little bit viral. And I said that fish have always been fish. That's just the way the genetics works.
Yeah.
I love that.
Now, he did have 3 messages that went along with this particular tweet here. And his 3 messages were, number 1, be patient. Number 2, be persistent. And number 3, be prayerful. And I thought of those 3 things, and I kind of related it back to what we've been discussing earlier, which is the hallmark of his presidency is getting rid of the word Mormon. And be patient. It takes 40 years to outlive all the other white Utah-born geriatrics in order to assassinate the word Mormon. Yeah, that does take patience. It takes a lot of patience.
Yeah.
Or be persistent.
Patience of a curmudgeon. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you bet. Or be persistent. Even if multiple prophetseers and revelators ahead of you openly and repeatedly rebuke you in general conference for trying to eliminate the word Mormon, persistence is key, right?
Yep.
Just like a curmudgeon.
Or number 3, be prayerful. Pray that Thomas S. Monson's dementia takes him to heaven before you die so that you can get rid of the word Mormon as soon as possible.
I'm starting to think that Russell M. Nelson might be a curmudgeon.
Not too sure. Now, deep sea fishing, that means, okay, so he's deep sea fishing. That means you have to have left Utah, right? I mean, you can't go deep sea fishing in the Great Salt Lake, right? How deep is the Great Salt Lake these days?
About 15 feet at the most, and then it's shrinking. I mean, it's drying up out there.
Yeah, so he's not on the Great Salt Lake, right? Because you can't deep sea fish on the Great Salt Lake. No. Okay, so Russell M. Nelson has only left Utah publicly one time since about mid-2000, in the last couple of years. In the last 3 years, since he's only left Utah once, and that was for the Washington, D.C. temple dedication. So if this was a recent photo, then he has secretly left the state of Utah for only the second time in the last couple of years.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of big news in and of itself, because he has a lot of fishing pictures, by the way, if you go back. He's a big fisherman, but he's not wearing the same outfit as his previous pictures. That makes me think that this is a recent picture, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so this is what I'm saying. Okay, he left Utah secretly, apparently, for only the first time in the last couple of years, maybe since like 2020. In the last 3 years, he's only left Utah once to go to the Washington, D.C. temple. And he didn't leave Utah for any of the following reasons. The Queen Elizabeth's passing, right? So if you look at the list of the people who attended this particular Queen Elizabeth's passing, you had the General Assembly of the Church of Scotland. You had the moderator of the Church of the Free Presbyterian Church. You had the president of the Jain community. You had the representative of the Baha'i community, the general secretary of the Hindu Council, the representative of the Sikh Council, the Buddhist community. Every single church and their dog sent the Dean of Westminster, and on and on. This was the biggest faith event of the year, was the Queen's passing, and all of these major religious faith leaders were here. But the church, not only did Russell M. Nelson not go to it, we didn't even send anyone to it. So how are we going to lead the world's faith when we don't even show up?
Yeah, don't even send a delegate.
Right. Yeah, that's strange.
That's a big landmark thing, to have that many world faith leaders gathered together in the same place for one event. Yeah.
Yeah, you would think that he wouldn't miss an opportunity to be there. That's, interesting.
He is supposed to be leading the world's faith leaders, not just among them. He's supposed to be leading them, but he didn't show up. He can fish, but he doesn't show up to the biggest religious event of the year. More religious persons were there than any other place. And the church, we didn't even send a stake president. We didn't even send a sunbeam to this thing. We could have at least sent James Hamula. That's a joke. Adah, I'm sorry. I don't want to put you on the spot. Do you know who James Hamula is?
No.
Okay. He was the last 70 who got excommunicated about 10 years ago. Okay. Sorry, that is a lame joke. Okay, so we could have at least sent James Hamula, but no, we didn't. We go fishing, but we don't show up to this very important event. Okay, what about the passing of the Marriage for All Act? This was the church's #1 legislative priority. And who did we send? Did Russell M. Nelson show up? No, we sent a lay member and a 70.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so he's not going. He's going fishing, but he's not showing up for that either. Okay, and if you look at the top news story of the year, I went and looked at like CNN, Fox News, and a bunch of other websites. The top story of the year is actually the Ukraine war, which started back in February. It's almost a year old.
Yeah.
And did Russell M. Nelson do anything with the Ukraine war? Absolutely not. But I can hear what people are saying. Well, what do you expect? I mean, he's a 97-year-old man. What do you want him to do? I don't know. Let's think about what we read in the Bible. What did David in the Bible do? Well, he led. He showed up. He fought. He took up arms. He killed Goliath. Okay, think about Captain Moroni in the Book of Mormon. He just didn't sit around in a fortified tax-exempt bunker / presidential condo in North Temple. He took up arms.
Yeah.
Okay, that's what prophets do.
Yeah, we don't read about him fishing.
No, we don't. Okay, and think about Simon the Lamanite. He went to the hostile people. He put his life on the line. Think about Elisha in 2 Kings chapter 6. He kicked the Syrians' butts. He prayed to the Lord, caused the Syrian army to be, all of them were blinded. And then he had the very inspiring story, which is where he had the they that be with us are more than they that be with them. Remember, he opened the eyes of his servants. He decimated the Syrian army single-handedly. That's what prophets do. Scriptures are filled with prophets getting personally involved with wars.
Yeah.
Now, Adah, why do you think that the scriptures are so filled with prophets getting their hands really dirty, killing people, and getting so involved with wars?
Well, I think there's the idea that like prophets are supposed to be there in the trenches with the people. And that's what Jesus did. And we're supposed to follow his example. So the fact that President Nelson isn't willing to do any of those things is kind of interesting.
Yeah. I mean, if you think about where is human suffering most acute on this planet, where is the greatest evil manifested on earth? That's in war. That's in Ukraine right now. And what did the church do as far as leadership? They issued an incredibly tepid statement. And did it rebuke Vladimir Putin, Al?
I wish that he would have, because no, he didn't. What's the excuse? I mean, we've had plenty of senior citizen ancient prophets, right? I mean, shoot, Noah was how old? Hundreds of years old when he built the ark. Methuselah almost 1,000 years old. I mean, so what? I mean, since when has age ever stopped prophets from doing what they're supposed to do?
Exactly. Right? The church and President Nelson in particular, we couldn't summon the moral fortitude to rebuke by name the most maniacal, genocidal, homicidal, murderous butcher of our day. We couldn't even rebuke Putin by name. And if we can't rebuke Putin, who can we rebuke? Well, I guess Matt Easton, we can rebuke him by name. Or gay Latter-day Saints, yeah, we can call them out. And we can call out activist bloggers. But no, Vladimir Putin, the most genocidal maniac of our times, he gets a pass.
They want to try and stay neutral on the issue, right?
That's not a prophet's job.
No, it's definitely not.
A prophet's job is to do what Elisha did, which is to be God's representative on earth and kick some butt when necessary.
Yeah.
Now,
Putin's got teeth, though.
Yes, well, so did that Syrian army. You know what I mean?
I'm sure they did, yeah.
Yeah. If you think about the number one religious news story of the year, most religious news, most people think that the Roe versus Wade overthrow is actually the number one religious news story of the year. And some people think that that's the biggest moral issue of our time. And what was Russell M. Nelson? Was he involved with that? Did he go to the Supreme Court and picket it and say, this is wrong? I'm the Lord's representative. You made a mistake. You need to reconsider. Did he take leadership on this issue?
Yeah, no, of course not.
Absolutely not. No, absolutely not in one way, shape, or form. What most people consider to be the biggest moral issue of the year, he took a pass. He was AWOL. Or think about the Colorado LDS shooting that we had just a couple of months ago. In Colorado, we had a Mormon who went on a mass rampage and a shooting. Was Russell M. Nelson there? Or any of the other shootings like Uvalde, Texas, or any other horrible gun violence that we've had? Was Jesus's representative there for any of those?
Well, no, you don't want to offend your gun-toting base, right?
Apparently not. Yeah. Apparently not. And think about our biggest news story of the year was the AP sex abuse story. Did Russell M. Nelson travel to Arizona to meet with or minister with the survivors, to look those little girls in the eye and say, you know what? The Lord still loves you. Our bishops, they didn't do the right thing. They could have taken care of you. They didn't. I'm here. I'm going to make sure that that we have processes in place, that this is never going to happen again. Did he travel with them, look him in the eye as Jesus? We see those little pictures with Jesus with the kids surrounded by him. Did Russell M. Nelson go to the AP sex abuse story and try to make things right? No, he didn't. Okay, so but he can go fishing. But he can't go minister to those little girls. No, but he can definitely go deep sea fishing. And the Tonga volcano disaster is actually a very interesting story, because there was serious food, water, and shelter shortages. This took place exactly a year ago, back in January. And Tonga is the most Mormon nation on earth. It has 174 congregations. There's 6 church-owned schools. There's 135 full-time missionaries. It's a really, really Mormon place, and they experienced a serious disaster. And did Russell M. Nelson go there and minister and take care of those saints during that time?
Not that I know of.
No, he didn't. He didn't, because hasn't left the state of Utah except for Washington, D.C. in the last 3 or 4 years.
Did he send anybody else? Did any of the top leadership go to that and offer some help? Do you know?
They just let the local congregations handle that.
Adah, I don't have the answer to that, but I can tell you that Russell M. Nelson didn't go to it himself.
Yeah.
And if I think about like George W. Bush after Katrina, he toured Katrina. When you're the commander-in-chief, when you're the head guy, and there's a huge disaster among your people, George Bush's leadership is not exactly on the up and up. I think we can all kind of agree on that. I'm not a huge political person. He's not exactly a champion of leadership, but even he had the know-it-all, had the wherewithal to go to Katrina after a disaster, because those are your citizens and he's the representative. Russell M. Nelson didn't go to the biggest Mormon disaster of the year. He just wasn't there.
Yeah.
So, and there's just no leadership on climate change. There's no leadership on any of these issues. These are all of the biggest issues of our day. These are not small issues. These are the biggest issues of our time. And remember, most people consider that the first presidency, they have a private luxury jet that's donated by the Huntsmans. Now, I don't know that for certainty, but they certainly have a private jet of some sort, because the regular apostles, you will see snapshots of them in the airports. The first presidency, they do not fly commercial. They have their own jet.
Ooh.
Why are we not using it?
Well, it's probably a matter of our own perspective, right? Because, I mean, when we talk about like war and famine and volcanoes and all this natural disaster, climate change, etc., these are things that we consider to be the biggest issues. But obviously, since, this is the Lord's prophet on the earth, the biggest issues is knowing how to catch fish when you're deep sea diving, and you have to have a cute little, 3, alliteration things to say, and one of those has to be prayer. I don't know about you, but anytime I've caught a fish, there was never prayer involved. I don't feel the need to trouble heaven with that kind of pettiness, right? My own. Oh Lord, help me catch a fish. I'm not starving if I don't catch a fish. There's a gas station on the way home. I can go and get a corn dog. I'm okay.
Yeah.
This is just me out having fun, right?
I don't begrudge anyone to go on a vacation. I really don't. If we were doing leadership on all these other issues, if he was doing the leadership that is needed for this planet needs leadership. He's
a vacation
not
from what, right? I mean, if he's only on vacation, show us something. I mean, show us that you're going over to Queen Elizabeth's funeral, that you're taking charge and leadership in this. Stand up from the back row and say, look, the time has come for all of the children under heaven to unite under one faith, and I will lead you there. We didn't see that. Well, we don't want to offend them, right?
Well, yeah,
we don't. What is it?
World faith leaders are gathered. He's not there. Major disasters that are affecting Mormons, he's not there. Sex abuse scandals, shooting scandals, not there. Roe versus Wade, big moral issues like Roe versus Wade, like climate change, he's not there. He's never in any of these places. So, Adah, is it safe to say that Russell M. Nelson places a higher priority on deep sea fishing than any of these other urgent issues, or am I just way out of line?
I think he places a higher priority on pedestalizing himself and making it look like he has all this wisdom and knowledge about spiritual things. But I mean, it's very clear that he holds no priority for climate change. Are you kidding me? Or Roe v. Wade. I mean, he was probably happy about that. The Colorado LDS shooting, he shot, gay and trans people. So they don't matter, right? Like, that's clearly not a priority for RMN. He's just doesn't even care about those things. So I'm not surprised that he did not, do any of that, but I am surprised about the Tonga disaster, that he wasn't that he wasn't there for that. But I mean, of course he didn't care about the AP sex abuse story. He doesn't care about those little girls. If anybody cared about them, that never would have happened. It's just,
See, this is the difference. When the Pope this last year went to, when the Canadian scandal of all of those kids who were the indigenous kids in Canada who were taken to Catholic schools who ended up killed, the Pope went to Canada, he met with the families, and he apologized. That's called leadership. Why is the Pope a better leader than Christ's than Russell M. Nelson?
I think my personal opinion is that the church is run by lawyers instead of a prophet and seers and revelators. So the lawyers say you can't apologize because that admits that you are at fault.
Liability, right?
That's all I can say is I hope that is not the case. Honestly, that makes me sad if that is really the case. That just makes me really sad because I've been taught my entire life that Russell M. Nelson is the personal representative of Jesus on earth, that he is the true vicar of Jehovah. But I think back to the New Testament. Jesus, he had a ministry among the people who mostly did not share his faith. He went to people who didn't believe what he believed. And they picked up stones to try to kill him. In fact, he gave his life for his beliefs. He just didn't show up occasionally for cushy temple dedications and groundbreakings and friendly, already believing general conference audiences 2 or 3 times a year. That's not how he did his ministry.
Yeah. Photo ops.
You remember, Al, do you ever remember watching those church in action videos back from the 70s and 80s?
Oh, yeah. And those church in action videos, they were really something. They told you, hey, get out and do, right? Show up. Yeah, they were
really good videos. I love watching those things. And I don't remember Spencer W. Kimball going on a deep sea fishing trip. There's just a giant contrast between Jesus's ministry and the apostles that Jesus called in the New Testament. They traveled the world. They all gave their lives. They weared out their life. They just didn't sit around. Early church apostles in our dispensation, they were missionaries who went and did the work out among the people. If you think about apostles like Lorenzo Snow, he traveled the world on foot. And as a missionary, those missionaries went without purse or script. They were literally begging for food. His life, Lorenzo Snow's life, of the missions that he went to Italy, he went to missions in Hawaii, he went on missions to several missions to Ohio and England. He worked and walked his life. He laid out under the stars. He almost starved to death for years. Okay, that's the type of sacrifice that Lorenzo Snow did even before he was a prophet. He was a real warrior for truth. And if you also think about the apostles in the Doctrine and Covenants, where is the jurisdiction of the apostles? The jurisdiction of the apostles in the Doctrine and Covenants says that you have jurisdiction outside of the stakes of Zion, not inside, outside.
Yeah.
It's just the contrast here is really, really stunning. Spencer Kimball in those Church in Action videos, he had incessant travels, especially to what he believed were his people, the Lamanites, especially in Central, South America. He really, really, really traveled to the people. He was a man of the people. You can definitely say that about him.
Yeah.
And I hear people, like you said earlier, okay, Russell M. Nelson, he's too old for that. Okay, I get that. I get that. But, Gordon B. Hinckley, he was old too. And what did he do to make up for the fact that probably he was too old to be able to go around and do all the things that he wanted to do? How did he get his message out?
Through media and through, just basically media. But I mean, if anybody has the technology to do so much, it's Russell M. Nelson. I mean, hello. We have more technology to be able to reach people across the entire world without him having to leave Utah necessarily, in a lot of ways. So, and he's not doing it.
Yeah, Gordon B. Hinckley, he showed leadership on the world stage by going on 60 Minutes, by going on Larry King. Russell M. Nelson, the entire year, did not do one interview with a mainstream media who could actually ask him a real question all year long. He had no message for the world through media, except for a couple of YouTube videos.
That feels really kind of cowardice, almost like you're afraid to be asked a hard question. And I feel like Gordon B. Hinckley was not afraid to be asked a hard question.
Oh, no, absolutely, he was punchy.
Yeah. Yeah. If you think that Joseph Smith had access to the kind of media that we had today, what do you think he would do with it? I promise you that he would have been using it.
You ever see a televangelist?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I'd see.
Yeah, all I can say is the words of Ezra Taft Benson kind of apply here, because Russell M. Nelson, he needs to lengthen his stride. Or Gordon B. Hinckley, who said, forget yourself and go to work. If you think about what Russell M. Nelson did travel to last year, he went to the Ephraim Temple dedication. He went to the University of Utah Medical Center opening. He went to General Conference. He did the Hebrew Temple groundbreaking. He went to the Washington, D.C. Temple dedication. And to my knowledge, now correct me if I'm wrong out here, listeners, he didn't do one state conference, no area conferences, no regional conferences. You know, we need the kid who tracks Elon Musk's jet to track that first presidency jet, because that's going to be the easiest gig ever. Because whoever that pilot is, we're paying a pilot to be ready on that jet. That has got to be the cushiest job that anybody's ever had.
Right? I want that job.
Yeah, I'm just thinking. I'm sorry, I'm on a bit of a rant here, but I was actually listening to some Mormon Tabernacle Choir this week because I'm a big Motab fan. I used to play in the orchestra at Temple Square. And by the way, the one thing that you never see on ex-Mormon Reddit is people bagging on the Motab.
That's true.
Yeah, they'll bag on anything in the church and everything in the church. We're going to burn this mother effer to the ground. But you know what? They never bag on the Motab because everybody loves the Motab. And I was just thinking of one of my favorite hymns, which is Let Us All Press On. Let us all press on in the work of the Lord, that when life is o'er, we may gain a reward. In the fight for right, let us wield the sword, the mighty sword of truth. We will not retreat, though our numbers may be few when compared with the opposite host in view. But an unseen power will aid me and you in the glorious cause of truth. If we do what's right, we have no need to fear, for the Lord our helper will ever be near. In the days of trial, his saints he will cheer and prosper the cause of truth. Fear not, though the enemy deride. Courage, for the Lord is on our side. We will heed not what the wicked may say, but the Lord alone we will obey. It's called Action. That is an inspiring hymn for me. I just love that hymn.
Yeah, but if you want to catch fish, you'll take some patience and some persistence and some prayer. Doesn't that hit this with the same chord?
Al, don't do that.
I'm so sorry.
Oh my gosh. That is terrible. Let me just ask you, what good is a heaven-sent prophet for our day if he shows no leadership on the world stage? And I'm sorry, renaming ministering, that's not leadership. Shortening church, that doesn't count. Second hour prayer guidance, that doesn't count either. No. What good is it to have a prophet who's for our day? Oh, we thank thee, O God, for a prophet. He's showing no leadership.
Right. And no prophecies.
Yeah.
And
to say, well, he's 98 years old. He's old and tired. Then grandpa, retire.
Yeah.
It's okay. There's no shame in it. But if you're going to go out and tell the world, hey, I am God's living voice piece on the earth, and I speak for God, don't tell us about how to catch fish.
Yeah.
Go retire, catch all the fish you want, and let somebody else take us to the fight.
Well, it was like Elisha and Elijah in the Bible. The mantle fell from the other prophet, while that prophet was alive. We don't have to have people live until they're dead. They can, if you can't do the leadership that the Lord needs you to do, then let's get somebody out there who can.
Yeah.
And what good is a $150 billion nest egg if it's almost never called on to bless God's children? What good are powerful priesthood keys and sacred temples if they bless less than 1/10 of 1% of the world's population and shrinking? What good is the Mormon copyright on truth if it's only trotted out twice a year on KSL TV during General Conference for the Jello Belt faithful? You know what I mean? And what good is the Lord's only true church if it recedes into an irrelevant provincial curiosity?
Yeah.
Oof, yeah.
All I can say is the world needs global inspired leadership now more than ever. And trite, so trite, fishing inspired platitudes, it just doesn't cut it.
Yeah.
Your divine guidance is seriously lacking from 50 East North Temple Street in Salt Lake City, Utah.
Mm-hmm. It's not even good fishing advice. And that's what really bugs me about this. It's not even good fishing advice. Patience, nothing. You're out there having the time of your life doing nothing. Okay?
Yeah. Now that does bring
persistence. No.
Now that does bring us to our Mormon News Roundup question of the week, which is available only on Anchor. And Adah, do you have that Mormon News Roundup question of the week for us?
I do. It is: how do you feel about President Russell M. Nelson's fishing trip, New Year's prophetic counsel?
Okay, and if you come on over to Anchor, you can interact with us on that. And there is one final article, there's one final tweet which I think summed up this entire. See, it's a two-parter. We have Dieter Uchdorf with the fortune cookie, and we have Russell M. Nelson with the fishing guidance. It's kind of a twofer for this week. And somebody tweeted out this. It's called From Kolob and Peace. Having modern prophets is so cool. Who else could read me a fortune cookie they got from takeout or ramble about expensive fishing trips that they went on? I think
well
that pretty
said, Kolob in peace.
I think that pretty much sums it up for me.
Yeah.
Have we ruminated properly on the great and spacious beehive this week, guys?
I'd say.
Yes.
So
now we have some huge guests. We have some huge guests coming up. I just want to run down our shows that we got coming up this week, which are absolutely massive. Number one, we have Colby Reddish, the Deputy Idaho Attorney General. He's filling in for Al next week. Al, what are you going to be doing next week?
I'm just going to take next week off and go and have a good time with my wife somewhere.
Just don't go fishing, okay?
I will not go fishing, and if I do, well, ice fishing might take more persistence because it's cold. But I'm not an ice fisherman. Fishing's just for fun. It's a purely selfish pastime.
That's fine. Whatever you do, just don't go fishing. That's all I ask.
I won't.
Our next guest is Evan from the Book of Evan. He's going to be on January 22nd. We have Chino Blanco, the OG moderator of both our Mormon and our ex-Mormon Reddits. He's coming on January 29th. We have Landon Brophy from the Good Book Club on February 5th. We have the Alternative Mormon on February 12th. Yes, the Alternative Mormons. And this is big news here, Al. We have the Midnight Mormons. We have a tentative agreement for them to come on February 19th. We have some massive shows coming up. I have at least Carden Ellis has said that he's going to come on. Now, whether we can get all three, not sure, but we're definitely going to be doing this show with the Midnight Mormons, which should be quite an experience.
Yeah, that's definitely not an episode that you'll want to miss. That sounds like a good one.
You bet.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you so much. Thank you so much, Adah. Sorry, slaughter your name again for joining us. We are going to post a link to Dissident Daughters on the show notes. So please go and check out her podcast over there. Thank you again, Dives. And we also want to give a shout out to Weird Alma for this episode's music, both our intro and outro music. It's very great for him to let us use that. And thanks so much for ruminating with us on the great and spacious beehive again. And remember, no unhallowed hand can stop this podcast from progressing.
When it comes to nicknames of the church, such as LDS Church, the Mormon Church, to remove the Lord's name from the Lord's church is a major victory for Satan.
Satan.
Please allow me to introduce myself. I'm a being with no moral constraints. My number one goal is to hurt the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints.